From Kern Government Television, welcome to this week's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting, originating from the County Administrative Center located at 1115 Truxtun Avenue, Bakersfield, California. Kern County's vision is to create and maintain a customer-centered county government designed to garner the confidence, support, and trust of the people we serve. Today's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting will convene momentarily.
Board to reconvene. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Gleason.
Here.
Supervisor Scrivener.
Here.
Supervisor Maggard.
Here.
Supervisor Couch.
Here.
Supervisor Perez.
Thank you, and welcome to the 2 p.m. session of the Kern County Board of Supervisors, Tuesday, August 8, 2017. Before we begin today's meeting, I have an announcement. While meeting in closed session on item 60 of this morning's agenda, the Board of Supervisors voted unanimously on a 5-0 vote to appoint Mark Nations as County Counsel effective immediately. Mr. Nations has served as Assistant County Counsel since 2014, and before that, he was Chief Deputy County Counsel for 10 years. Mr. Nations has served capably as Interim County Counsel since November 15, 2016. During his time with County Counsel, he has effectively represented the county in several important litigation matters. The county is extremely fortunate to have Mark Nations' outstanding legal skills and experience available to lead the office of County Counsel. We are delighted to appoint him as County Counsel, and we extend our congratulations and best wishes for his success in this critical role. Mr. Nations, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right. Verbose as usual. Mr. Nations, I would like you to report on any actions taken in closed session, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. As to item 60, you've already announced that one. As to item 61, 62, 63, 65, 66, and 67, there are no reportable actions. With regard to item number 64 on the closed session agenda, by a unanimous vote, the Board of Supervisors approved a proposed resolution of the litigation entitled City of Los Angeles versus County of Kern to Larry County Superior Court number VCU 242057. This litigation concerns a legal challenge to Measure E, a 2006 voter-approved initiative that banned land application of sewage sludge, also known as biosolids, in the unincorporated areas of Kern County. This litigation has lasted 10 years and has gone through both the federal court system and the state court system. In April and May of last year, the county was given a full trial on the merits in Superior Court. County contended at the trial that land application of biosolids posed a substantial risk of harm. At the conclusion of the trial, which involved dozens of witnesses and thousands of pages of records, the judge issued a ruling that Measure E is preempted by state law because it deprived a local municipality of a recognized and approved method of waste recycling, and was not a proper use of police power because, contrary to the county's assertions, there was insufficient scientific evidence or proof that land application of biosolids at Green Acres Farm poses a harm to anyone. Given that these same issues have already been unsuccessfully litigated before the appellate court at an earlier time, pursuing yet another appeal is deemed futile. Therefore, in harmony with the trial court's recent ruling and judgment following a full trial on the merits, the resolution of this matter provides for the entry of the judgment. It reinstates the county's earlier biosolids ordinance. It will allow Green Acres Farm to continue its operations pursuant to permit, requires the parties to pay their own attorney's fees, and will require the county to pay the plaintiff's costs of litigation of $54,055.89. All parties will waive appeal. We are currently awaiting approval of this agreement by all of the other parties and have been assured it is forthcoming. At this time, the City of Los Angeles is the only entity land applying biosolids in the unincorporated area. It does so exclusively on Green Acres Farm. The county will hereafter proceed pursuant to an earlier court order to prepare an environmental impact report that examines the county's regulation of land application of biosolids. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Nations. And next on our agenda, we will consider our consent agenda. If you'd like to follow along, our agendas are available at the two tables near the exits. All items listed with a CA above the item are considered to be routine and non-controversial by county staff. Consent items will be considered first and may be approved by one motion. If a member of the audience wishes to comment or ask questions regarding an item or items on the consent agenda, they may do so prior to a vote being taken on the consent agenda. A member of the board may remove any item from the consent agenda, and it will be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the board concerning the item before action is taken. So now I'll read the consent agenda items. Starting on page 2, items 3 through 6 are on consent. On page 3, items 7 through 12 are all on consent. On page 4, all items 13 through 18 are on consent. Page 5, all items 19 through 25 are on consent. On page 6, items 26 and 27 are on consent, as well as items 28 through 30 on page 7. On page 8, items 31 through 33 are on consent. On page 9, items 34 through 36 are on consent. And finally, on page 10, not finally, on page 10, all items 38 through 45 are on consent. And on page 11, items 46 through 51 are on consent. And finally, on page 12, items 52 through 58 are on consent. Are there any members of the audience that would like to make any comment on the consent agenda? Mr. Fox.
Item 42.
Item 42, please come forward and you can make your comment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, staff. I am Dennis Fox. I'm with the Native Grasslands Association. A month ago, at a little convention type thing up at 5 Points, the University Extension Research Station. And they went into water savings. This has to do with water. And the water savings actually occurs by putting a cover crop on. And they were using sorghum. And if you put a cover crop on and then you seed drill and rather than plow, you end up with kind of a situation where it's mulch, more or less. And so we're looking at that, and then we thought perhaps triticale, which is hay that they use in the dairies, would be better. NRCS is paying people, the dairies, not to harvest it because it is winter habitat for tricolored blackbirds. We feel that maybe if they planted a little hay, more hay, they wouldn't have to harvest it to begin with. So that's one thing. As for the wind farms, a little cover crop there, by definition, wind is where you would have dust, so it's an air quality issue. As for the solar, looking at perhaps raising solar panels up to where the cows can get underneath them and have some shade. It's so bad now with the heat, the poor cows are dying and their slaughterhouses are full, and they've had to pass a bill to let them bury them on site. Not too cost effective. So we were thinking probably rotational grazing and then graze them in the summer, that area. Davis, some of the instructors there feel that since these things, the solar panels are getting money from cap and trade, that this would sequester carbon and therefore should add to the value of the place, not only for the person putting them in, but also for you, tax-wise. And that's, I just found out, so there's, of this stuff, I just found out about it from here, and I've notified the Grass Association about this bill, and I definitely think we will support it, and I'm glad you do. And we're looking for anything that could be a problem. I'd like to thank Lorelei Oviatt for giving us a problem that maybe the cows will be damaging the panels. So anything else you can come up with, but I'd like to, any other problems, but I think it's worthwhile in the long run to have this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Any other comments from members of the public on the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, I'll return to the board and ask if any board members would like to remove an item from the consent agenda for separate consideration. Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
Motion.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved, 4 ayes, 1 absent. Supervisor Perez.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda will be public presentations. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons to address the board on any matter not on this agenda, but under the jurisdiction of the board. Board members may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed. They may ask a question for clarification, make a referral to staff for factual information, or request staff to report back to the board at a later meeting. Are there any members of the audience who would like to make a public presentation? Okay, seeing none, I'll move on then to item 2, board member announcements or reports. Do we have any announcements from board members? Okay, seeing none, then that will take us to our one item that's off consent today. That's item number 37 under County Administrative Office. This is a response to a July 18, 2017 referral to develop a recommendation for placing signage on county-owned property in and around Hart Memorial Park area to educate the public on inherent risks associated with entering the Kern River and request to place 18 signs around the park. And Ryan Alsop, our County Administrative Officer, has taken the lead on this issue, and so we'll ask him to report at this time. Mr. Alsop, good afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, members of the board. This is a report back on a referral you made to staff on July 18th to provide a recommendation for the placement of river safety signage in and around the Hart Park area. And I do have a PowerPoint if not everybody's aware. It's to follow along. Governments throughout the world and here in the United States utilize signage in certain instances to alert and educate the public on the inherent risks associated with rivers, lakes, oceans, and other water-related naturally occurring hazards. We've all seen them. These signs vary in size, scope, and tone. In some cases, the risks these signs warn of are extraordinary due to timing, or one-time man-made or weather-related conditions, which is the case with our own Kern River this year, due to well above average snowpack. However, in most every instance, there are inherent risks associated with entering rivers, lakes, or oceans, and risks that remain constant. They're just always there. I believe this is the case with the Kern River. Here on the screen, you see examples of current signage used to alert the public on risks associated with entering our own Kern River, with the exception of the electronic mobile sign, which is in the lower left-hand corner, that was recently placed by the county in the Hart Park area, which is temporary. I believe that is one of either 2 or maybe even 3 now that are down in that area. While some permanent signage exists for certain areas of the Kern River, such as those just shown, that are primarily in and around the Kern Canyon area, there is currently no signage located in and around the Hart Park area, nor has there ever been, to my knowledge. This, even though the area serves as a desirable access point for people looking to enjoy our Kern River. Since official record keeping began back in 1968, there have been 289 confirmed deaths in the Kern River. This year, due to extraordinary conditions, has been unusually busy and deadly. With the Kern County Sheriff's Office logging well over 120 river/searches so far, might be more now, compared to less than 20 river calls or searches in all of 2016. 13 people have lost their lives in the Kern River this year alone. one of those in Tulare County, but still in the Kern River. One individual swept away by the river's exceptionally strong current remains unaccounted for. 5 of those who have lost their lives this year entered the river from county-owned property in and around Hart Memorial Park, to include Lake Ming, the Kern River Park campground area, and Kern River Golf Course and picnic areas. It is important to note that beyond the 5 deaths just this year, many lives have been lost on the Kern River over the years in and around the Hart Park area. Again, although 2017 has been an exceptionally dangerous year for the Kern River, there are inherent risks associated with entering the river anytime, no matter the year or its condition. Therefore, it is staff's recommendation to immediately place well-appointed, highly visible signage focused on educating the public on the inherent risk associated with entering the river at 18 different locations throughout the Hart, Lake Ming, Kern River Golf Course complex. At a minimum, we believe it may help ensure the safety of some contemplating entering the river, particularly unsuspecting members of the public who may also be visitors or new to the area. In consultation with county first responders, county park staff, and county council, these 18 locations within Hart Park, Lake Ming, Kern Campground, and the golf course area, including some locations on the north side of the river, have been identified for signage. A few sign placement sites have been identified due to their visibility going into and out of the general area, with the majority selected based on the fact that they are high propensity access points for the river. I'm going to go through a series of slides fairly quickly that just show some of the close-up sign designation points in this area. What you see on the screen before you are 6 locations within the Hart Park proper that have been identified for their either entrances into the park or access points to the river that are primarily used, if not exclusively used. And you can see there are a couple of points that are one's on the north side of the river. 2 are on the north side of the river down in the lower right-hand corner. Here's Lake Ming and the Kern River Golf Course blown up. As you can see, there's a sign on the loop going into the Lake Ming area. There are a couple of signs on the east side of the Kern River Golf Course. This is a site where I myself in high school would enter the river. Very popular for people entering the river there. And there are 4 signs on the west side of Lake Ming into the campground, which is frequented by visitors. And I think it's pretty full now, at least it was over the weekend when I was out there. This is a draft of the sign we propose to be used. It is colorful, highly visible, multilingual, and communicates what we believe is a strong message. Communicates extreme caution, the fact that rivers are dangerous, there is fast water, there are hidden rocks and debris, and if you are not careful, you will die. The sign utilizes an icon depicting an individual in distress being swept down the river. The size of the sign in each location will be determined by staff. We will go out to each of these locations and determine the best suited size for the area, ensuring that it's clearly visible and readable in each of these locations. Total cost for the manufacturing and placement of these signs, approximately $4,700 is a one-time cost. I'm not sure about the upkeep. Obviously, there is upkeep with signage, and we will make sure they're kept up. That is staff's recommendation. Again, this is a draft sign. We like it. We coordinated with first responders on the locations. I know that Sergeant Biddle, who heads our search and rescue with the Sheriff's Department, I don't want to put him on the spot, but he's here in person. If you have any specific questions about the river in this area, he's very knowledgeable, and I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alsop. I'll now ask if there's any members of the public that would like to make comment on item 37.
And once again, Dennis Fox, and I was, one thing I thought about, I saw an ad in the catalog for stuffed alligators. You know, that would get the attention and that would probably work. But it's kind of flippant. And I'd like to tell you why I really support it. Is I was, I guess, about 18 months to 2 years old. My folks went out there one Sunday for a picnic. And I was out there, and I went waiting while they're getting fiddling with the picnic stuff. And I went downstream and drowned. And it's something that stays with you. You had the Boy Scouts here today. I had a hell of a time getting through the requirements from second class to first class. And every time now, I'm being cursed with eidetic imagery. If I get into something and my feet aren't there, I can see it again. Everything is that color yellow too, kind of that chartreuse yellow, I see it. So it's something, even though the people don't drown, it's something you do get. And it's something that really could work on. Now, the alligators might get people's attention, or even put up a pollution sign, since that's a big thing these days. That would do it, but really anything that you can do to help people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, I'll return to the board. Supervisor Gleason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My understanding is that these signs are going to go on county property in and around Hart Park and Lake Ming area. Is that correct?
That's correct, Supervisor.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Supervisor Maggard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Alsop and your staff, thank you for responding with the recommendation that you have, and I'm in full support of the effort and happy to support a motion to do so.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
You have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved, 4 ayes, 1 absent. Supervisor Perez.
Thank you, and thank you to Mr. Alsop and your staff for the work that you put into that. And that brings us to the conclusion of our agenda for this afternoon. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn to August 15th at 9 a.m. We are adjourned.